Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and today we are at one of my favourite bits of the Beaulieu Spring Auto Jumble. It is of course Moggy Fest. There are 220 cars booked in to this fantastic event, and we are going to have a look at some of the Morris Minors here, and we are also going to have a look at some of the visitor cars here. There are visitor classics, and there are some really unusual and interesting cars nestled amongst these Morris Minors, and this is such a fabulous day out. Goodness me, you've got to come if you haven't been this year, and if you haven't managed to make it this year and you want to see what's on show, well, you're in for a treat, because we're going to go and have a look right now. Well, this is Moggy Fest 2025. Now, if you've been to Moggy Fest before, you'll know that this year in particular is incredibly busy. And as I said earlier, there are 220 cars booked in to this show. And Beaulieu were telling me that they host their events, which are things like called Simply British and they've got other ones like Simply German and stuff. Anyway, they were telling me that this is just as busy as those shows. Now, usually when they host those shows, you only get that. However, if you come to the Spring Auto Jumble, which honestly I would really recommend doing, you get this, you get entry into the Auto Jumble and entry into the museum. And this year it was £15. For me, I think that's absolutely incredible, because it's such a full and rich day out. There is so much that you get for your ticket price. And I'm quite tight-fisted, so I like to see lots of different things. Now, you'll probably be looking at some of these cars, probably these Fords in particular, and saying to me, Steph, this is a classic car show. What are those doing there? Now, look, here's the thing. As one of the organisers of Rustival, I'm very big on everyone coming to a car show, and there's a reason for this. And this is a theory that was put to me by one of my friends, and he said to me, and I repeated this at Moggy Fest, if you can get someone interested in cars, and in particular modern classics, so stuff that was made perhaps in that 20 to 30 year age bracket ago, on the continent they call it young timers. But if you can get people interested in those, it's really easy to flip them back and to get them interested in the older classics, because essentially they are going through the same aches and pains that we are in our classics. Although Morris Minors were particularly spoilt, because if you go for a later one, you can get pretty much everything off the shelf that you need, or the owners club will know where to direct you to, so you never really struggle that hard. It's a little bit like being an MGB owner. You'll go over to MGOC Spares or something like that, or for minis you'll go over to Mini Spares perhaps, and you can find all the bits you need. However, if you go for something a little bit more out of the ordinary, like this Zephyr, things can start to get a little bit trickier. And it's the same if you go for a modern classic. You just cannot always find the parts straight away. I find this all the time with the Proton, and it is such a pain. And you think to yourself, ugh. And you know what? If someone's hooked into that life where they're used to a few breakdowns, they're used to repairing things on the hoof, they're used to sourcing parts, working through forums, being part of a car community, it's really easy to give them keys to something a little bit older and say, well, you like that? Why don't you try this? Really easy to flip people over, really easy to convert people. So I personally am a massive believer in getting people in 80s, 90s, early 2000s cars into car shows and getting them exposed and appreciating the older stuff, because they're the people that will be driving our cars. They're the people that will keep them going. So they are just as important as the people driving all the other, I would say, traditional classics, the Croman, you know, the Croman side valvey stuff, all those sorts of people. One day we'll all be gone, so we need to start investing in some of these people that drive the more modern classics. Now let's meet one of my friends, and we're going to see a car that we're going to be seeing a lot more of on the channel over the coming months. This is Richard O'Brien and his car Beryl. Now this might be a face that's familiar to some of you. It is of course Richard. You'll remember Richard from many of the videos, because we have been all over the place together through our love of Morris Minors. Now Richard, this is a car that we've never featured on the channel before. Tell us about this lovely car.
Hi all, yeah, it's me, it's Richard again. Yeah, no, as far as I'm aware, I don't think this car's been on the channel, because I've not long had it back on the road. I've had this car since 2017, early 2017, and it was the first Morris Minor I actually sort of bought with my own money. There was one before that was a sort of 600 quid MOT failure one that myself and my father got on the road for me to use as my first car, but this was the first Minor that I sort of caught my attention, and I thought, actually, I'm going to have that, and I'm going to have that for myself. So what it is it's a very early example of the Minor 1000. So of course the Morris Minor launched in late 48. It runs through with the side valve engine series, then it goes to series 2 with the 803 with the first of the A series, and then in late 56, so late 1956, sort of October time with the motor show, they launched the Minor 1000, and that is really kind of like the coming of age for the Minor. That's the sort of coming of age moment for the car. It's where I think the car really kind of truly established itself, and in a way I think it was the car they always sort of wanted to make, but they had to go through the process to end up with it. So it's a very early example. It's a November 56 car. As I say, they started sort of October time, and it's in a really unusual colour. This is a factory colour. This is called turquoise. So when the Minor 1000 came out, they did a sort of a new range of colours, and this was one of the colours. So there aren't really very many left in this colour. I think I probably know of about 5 or 6, and this is one of them. So as I had it since 2017, it really is a classic sort of little lady owner sort of car. Miss Beryl Chapman was her name, and she was sort of lived Surrey way. The car is a Surrey car from new. It's a Hazelmere Motor Company car, yeah, no, it's a lovely little car. Not really ever been restored, just looked after and maintained. It's had the odd sort of thing like this wing's been painted and the boot lid's been painted, and it's had little bits done to it. But I was just saying to Paul, who's on camera duty, we don't think the front panel's ever been off, the wings haven't been off. You look underneath, it's really, really, really straight. You know, it's a lovely, lovely, genuine car, and it's got some really interesting sort of early features that you just do not see. So it's got a 948 A series engine, but it's a very, very early 948, so it's actually painted blue. It's not green, it's blue with a red sump, which is a very early thing, and it's a bit transitional because it's still got the high top, as we call it, the kind of higher, taller radiator of the early sort of split screen A series cars. It's got the smaller fuel tank, which a lot of people just kind of call like the split screen fuel tank, but it's the earlier smaller fuel tank. And it's got with the interior, although the colour is grey, which was done for this turquoise and another colour dark green, the grey interior is actually done in like a late Series 2 style with the sort of bucketed Series 2 seats where they're sort of shaped like that instead of being flat. So all little things which quickly went away as the Minor 1000 sort of, you know, production got ramped up into 57, 58 and onwards. So yeah, a pleasure to own, and I've sort of I haven't driven it in years, even though I've owned it for sort of 2017. It's probably one of my favourite cars. I just never got round to getting various jobs done on it. It had to have a master cylinder and brake cylinders and all, you know, little sort of bits and pieces. And my impetus to get it done was I wanted to bring it to this Moggy Fest, and I wanted to do Minors on Tour in it, which it's, you know, fingers crossed it will do, because that's next Friday we leave for that. So that's on that trip, the French trip, and then a few other kind of trips this summer as well. But that's sort of the car really, and I'm sure Steph will probably have a few other clips as she walks around it. But it's, yeah, my very early Minor 1000.
Honestly, there's no point me now giving any history on this car or technical spec on the model, because I think Richard has covered it off with absolute finesse. Now we're going to see a lot more of Beryl later on in the year in the channel, because we are of course going on Morris Minors on Tour, which is a fantastic holiday. It's run by the Owners Club and we absolutely love going. We're going to Loire Valley this year. I'm taking Nancy, just in case anybody wondered, and we are taking Beryl. We've got Ryan in, who's Who's Ryan taking the shares? We've got Malcolm or Olive. Okay, so he's taking Olive, his early low light Tourer. So we're not going to be travelling at any great speed, but goodness me, we're going to be having lots of fun. So let's go and have a look at some of the other cars here and see what else people have brought to Moggifest. Now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking to yourself, is this something that loads of people organise? Is this something the museum organises? No. This is, so if you've never been part of the Morris Minor Owner Club, I'll give you a brief explanation. Within the Morris Minor Owner Club, you have what is called branches, and these branches cover local areas. So my local branch is the West Yorkshire branch, fantastic group of people. We do some really cool events. We recently had a D-Day event where we all sat down and had tea and cake and stuff. And in fact, there are some West Yorkshire members that drove all the way down for this. It wasn't just me. We had Simon and we had a few others. And anyway, this event is organised by the Dorset branch. And they, for me, are one of the hardest working branches in the country. The stuff that they do and the things that their members do, just brilliant. If I was more local, I would come to absolutely everything. But as it stands, it was a 7-hour drive home. So there's really no way that I'm going to be coming on a regular basis. However, this is the one thing that they do that I would not miss for the world. So they just essentially put all this together and they have all the cars come, and the best thing about this for me is I get to see cars that I've never seen before, or that you see once a year, and you get to see their progress and you get to see how they're getting on, especially people that are doing various bits and pieces and that you know have been working really hard to improve their cars from one year to the next. You get to see all their hard work over the last 12 months, and that is just so exciting. And so this year there were cars that came all the way from Cornwall and Land's End, and these are cars that usually, being up in Yorkshire, I just wouldn't see. So I got to see some really lovely examples of cars, well, of my favourite car out on the rally field, and I just really enjoyed that. And again, we've got some more of the visitor classics mixed in with the Morris Minors, so you don't get just always clean roads of Morris Minors. Again, I quite like that. I've seen that car before, 932 FDV, always looking exceptional. So there's some things that if you are a bit of a number plate spotter, you'll have seen before, because there's cars that I've filmed before, but there's also cars that I have never seen before. So again, it's just really enjoyable, really great. And again, if you want to come to this and you've not been before, one of the things I would say is instead of buying a straight auto jumble ticket, buy a Moggifest ticket, and you can get those through the Dorset branch, but the cut-off for getting registered is quite early, and the reason for this is because A, they need to plan, because it's just a small committee of people that do it as part of the Dorset branch, and B, it allows them to put everything together. And when I say put everything together, you don't just get your entry, you get a mug and you get a sticker, and they've got various other bits, and so it's just such a great day out, and your Moggifest ticket gets you in for the entire weekend as well. So you can do what I did, which was I spent most of Sunday enjoying the Moggifest event, and then the Saturday I went round and did all my bargain hunting in the Auto Jumble. So it's really good. And there's something coming up that I'm going to show you, which is that they don't just have all the cars on display, which would essentially be a really good car show anyway. You also get an indoor area as well, which they spend an entire year planning. So they plan from one year to the next. So again, I just can't express to you how much hard work and dedication the branch put into making this such a fabulous event. And it's really, if you're thinking about what you want to attend for next year, in my opinion, this is the one event that you cannot miss. This is Gary, and this is his Austin van. Gary, what's the story behind this van? Because this is a really rare colour and one of the last. Tell us more.
Well, I sort of, we had a Morris Minor car as a family back in before the millennium, and we had girls, and as time moves on, you know, we sold that car and went for a more modern one because we had girlies and this, that and the other. And then as you get to a certain time in your life and you think, you start reminiscing, and I thought, oh, I quite fancy a van. So I went on the YouTube and I saw this lovely lady promoting the green van. I don't know if you remember it. And I kind of thought, yeah, I quite fancy getting another one of those, as you sold it so well. So I started looking, and you go to the usual places, you know, auctions, well-known auction sites, and I thought I'd go on YouTube just to again, just to try and educate myself, so I knew what I was buying. And there was a guy on there, Sam, who YouTuber, does Badger Lodge Garage, and he had this van, so I watched him do bits and pieces. It was a barn find, and he did the brakes and got it running and this, that and the other. And then still looking to buy one, and I saw plenty of pretty ones, but I wanted something that, you know, I wanted something, a project to do, but not one that was hanging, you know. So, and obviously I watched Sam's videos, and this is an honest van. Reputedly it was in a barn for 30 years, so that's why I think it's in good condition. It's not much to look at, but the bare bones of it were good. So I went across, and oh, that's right, he was selling it, and I saw it on Facebook Marketplace, fairly local to us. I went over, and the purchase was made, and I haven't regretted a moment of it. I absolutely love it, and yeah, and it's very much a work in progress. I've started at the front, working my way back, but like I say, it needs work, but the bones of it are here, and yeah, and you know, thank you to Sam for selling it to me. So.
We love stories like this. Now, Gary, you talk about how your girls are growing up and how it's nice to be back in a Morris, obviously, well, back in your Austin van. How often are you out in your van? Because there's a real misconception that people can't use classic cars regularly.
Well, the idea is for me to be my daily driver. I'm in the construction industry. I'm trying to slow down, and I thought, you know, why not, instead of just having a boring modern van, why not have something a bit quirky? As I'm trying to slow down, I won't be, you know, working so hard. I won't be doing such heavy stuff. I thought, well, this ticks the box. It's tax and MOT free, although I probably will get it MOT, but you know, I'm not paying the government tax, so they can spend it on whatever the government wants to spend it on. I just thought it was a win-win, and what a bit of fun! What a bit of fun! You know, modern motoring to me. I look at modern cars, don't interest me one iota. I'm always looking at classics. I have got an older pre-war car that we've restored, and we've just literally in the last couple of weeks bought a 40-year-old camper. So yeah, life is rosy living in the past. I love it, and I get to meet lovely folks. I mean, you know, we parked here. This is our first Morris Minor event that we've come to, Moggy Fest. We're only local, it's only 40 miles away. I have to say, people we spoke to, super helpful, friendly. Yeah, great. What's not to like? You know, I can't think of anything negative. Brilliant.
This man should be doing PR for Morris Motors, goodness me. He is loving it. Now here's the thing, right, if you want a Morris Minor and you want to follow in Gary's footsteps, my footsteps, Richard's, everybody else we've met today, it is so easy. There's so many out there, and they really are a joy, and they bring you joy as well. What are your plans for the rest of the year? This is your first event. Will you be coming to the National Rally, which, by the way, if you're watching this and you didn't already know, the Morris Minor National Rally is at the last weekend in June in Moreton in Marsh, but all the details are on the Morris Minor Owner Club website. Are you coming, Gary?
Probably not this year, but we sorry, but we've done this one, and the Hampshire branch is doing one at the Middle Wallop, I think it is, something like that, at the end of the month. So we're going to try and trundle along to that. Great. I mean, the Dorset, what a fantastic thing that they put on here. Lucky with the weather, obviously, but yeah, no, we're definitely keen to carry on doing shows and yeah, and spreading the love, spreading the message, you know, because they're great fun.
Now, people are definitely going to ask at home, what's the pre-war car, what's the 40-year-old camper? Tell us before we go. Okay,
the pre-war car is a Jowett Blackbird.
Really?
Yeah, I know you like a Jowett. Yeah, when we got it, I inherited it from a great friend who's unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but I have got pictures and I'll show you. But it was a shocker. You know, most people would have walked away, but I spent a good few years doing it, and then our youngest daughter said, I did all the chassis and the engine and bits and pieces, but the bodywork is a shed, absolute shed. And she said, Dad, and I said, yeah. She said, no, old car you got, you can have it for the wedding, could you? And I said to her, look, I'll do my best, no promises, and I got it done for the wedding. So that was fantastic. It's still very much work in progress, because it's a shocker to drive, but we're making progress in very, very small steps. So when that's up and running, perhaps you would like to drive it because you like a Jowett. Yes. And the camper van is a Mitsubishi L300 Pioneer, so 1984. Yeah, that needs a lot of love as well. but yeah. No, we're quite keen. Me and my wife, you know, we're very much a team. We always have been a team. We bring it back, and yeah, cool. Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to the work.
Love that. And I hope to catch up with Gary either later on this year or next year, because we're going to go and visit and we're going to drive that Jowett Blackbird, but we're also going to get that Mitsubishi camper as well. So no pressure, but let's get it all done at the same time. Right, come on, let's buckle up and go and see what else we've got out there. A few more Morris Minors, and in fact this is our last segment of the video where we're going for a little walk around the show, because after that we're going to go and have a look inside the main marquee, and I'll show you what the branch have been working on all year. Now, I'd love to know your favourite car, by the way, because as I said before, there are various other classics nestled amongst. I would say probably, and hopefully you've spotted them in the video, my favourite of the non-Morris Minors so far is probably either that Console or the Green Thames van. And the Green Thames van did actually win an award. I don't know if I told you that earlier. I know I told you on the first recording, which didn't really work, but I absolutely loved that. And I was talking to the owner, and he said, I've spent loads of time on this, and he said, do you remember it from last year? And I was like, oh yeah. So if you watched last year's Moggy video and you are a number plate rememberer and you thought, hold on, that Thames van looked really different last year, that's kind of what I mean. You get to see people's evolution of their vehicles, and I love that. It's almost like that yearly check-in. You get to see what everybody's doing. Now, there are a lot of people on this field that have modified their Morris Minors. And you see this more and more and more as time goes on, people putting their personal stamp on it. And we actually had a bit of a Q&A chat on the mic, and I was talking to Richard because I thought, I'm not going to do this on my own. I feel really nervous doing it. And I said to Richard, I said, how do you feel? Perfect time, actually. You might remember this from last year's Moggy Fest video. We talked to Amanda about this car, so if you want to know a little bit more about this custom build, you can go back and watch, because she spent decades planning it, putting it all into fruition. That is a really interesting and special car, and again, that won an award. Anyway, going back to where we were talking modified versus standard, Richard and I were on the mic and we were saying, do you agree with modifying classic cars? Do you agree with modifying Morris Minors? And we both sort of reached a point where, and you might disagree with me, and I'd really like to know if you do in the comment section below, where we said, if you pick up a Morris Minor and it's absolutely knackered, and you then go off and put your personal stamp on it because, you know, the engine was knackered, it had no floor, and, you know, it was just essentially a really rubbish, haggard example of the car, and you went and made it your own in that instance, that's fine. But if you take a car that maybe is, you know, 30,000 miles from new, super original, doesn't have anything different from the day it left the factory, it still has the original coil or whatever on it, and you go off and you chuck, you know, an MX-5 engine in it, that's sacrilege, because you're essentially taking an example out of the frame that is a really good reference piece, or is a good example of what they were like originally. That's kind of not okay. And I would say that that's where I sit on all of it, because if you look at my car, and you'll see my car when we do the Minors on Tour video in the next few weeks, you'll know that my car isn't as it left the factory. And the reason is when I bought it, it was hand painted with a brush. It had gaffer tape across the bottom of the door because the bottom of the door had rotted out and the seats had collapsed. So when it came to me doing it, I wasn't taking out original bits and pieces. I mean, it still looks very Morris Minor-ish, but it wasn't me taking an original car and destroying it and destroying the heritage. I went and put a slight slant on how it looks, because I knew that the original ingredients were either all gone or absolutely knackered beyond repair. So that's where I sit on it, but I'd really like to know where you guys sit on it at home, because I know that some of you have really impassioned views on this, that you believe that people should put their own stamp on it or whatever. But the one thing I did say, and I would say that this is something we've learned through having cars in at work, is that if you are going to take a classic and you're going to modify it, so you're going to put a different engine in it, you're going to put a different gearbox in it, you're going to put different brakes on it, especially with the Morris Minor, because there's several conversion kits that you can put on, please leave a bit of a guidebook for somebody, so future owners know what you've put in, know what you've done, and know the changes that you've made, so that if they need to go and buy spare pads, for example, they know what they're buying and they're not having to take it to somebody else to try and work out what you've done. I think that's the kindest thing you can do. And if you're not 100% sure on how to change something, perhaps don't do it or seek a professional's advice. I think that's probably where I lie on all of this. But I still am at heart quite a purist. I do like to see cars in their natural state. However, there's been some really clever upgrades on this field today that have perhaps challenged my viewpoint on that. This is Bill and his absolutely superb Clipper Blue Traveller. Bill, where have you come from today, and tell us a bit about the car?
Yeah, I've come down from South London a couple of days ago. I'm down here for the weekend, and we bought this car about 4 or 5 years ago. It was part of the estate, and the previous owner did all the restoration on it, and it was part of the estate because the guy had passed away. And she's a good little car when it works, obviously, but I do all the maintenance on it myself, not because of the cost, but because I like picking the spanner up and getting stuck in, like, you know. But she's a good car, she's a good runner. Like all classic cars, you get problems, you know. If you can sort them out, go for it, do it, you know. But beautiful day, beautiful weather, and I'm delighted to be down here.
Thank you very much. Now, a Traveller is such a brilliant choice, but it's a car that people often feel they have to keep in a garage because of the wood. Do you keep yours in a garage? How do you keep it looking so fresh?
It is in the garage, and I have put mattresses down the side of the garage, so she goes to bed better than I do. It's not scratched, dented or anything like that. I do look after her. It runs, it works, it gets me from A to B, and it's my everyday car.
And I think as we were just about to talk, we heard somebody say, you know, Morris Minor is one of the easiest cars to work on. With that in mind, and especially with the fact that for anybody watching who doesn't already know this, the parts prevalence for a later Morris Minor is superb. We can ring parts suppliers and have stuff pretty much the next working day. Do you use this lovely car a lot, or how often are you out?
Well, basically it is my everyday car, you know, I do use it every day. The maintenance is very simple on it, you know, you don't have to take out half an engine just to get to something. If you want to start the motor, that's all you have to go for, that's all you touch. I mean, William Morris at the time wanted a family car. So in 1953 he sent his engineers into the drawing room, come back with a car, nice family car, and they come up with this shape. And he said, well, what can we make it out of? And somebody actually said, a wooden frame. He said, well, that way you get to screw or bolt everything to the actual frame. He said, all right then, make one, I want to see one. And they brought one back, all made up. He said, yes, I like that, get it in production tomorrow. You know, so 72 years for the Traveller, celebrating this year, which is not bad.
It's a testament to how well Morris Minors were built that so many people use these cars every day or so very frequently. And what a feat of bravery really to be using the car in London, because I think a lot of people get very nervous about driving in big towns or cities in classic cars. How do people treat you when they see you out in the big smoke?
With respect, and when I'm at traffic lights, you know, I do get people coming up wanting to have a quick chat. I find it sometimes annoying when I get from A to B. You know, instead of a journey taking me half hour, you end up taking 2 hours to do the journey. I prefer driving in big cities. Driving around in country roads, I find it a bit nervous, because you don't know what's coming around the next bend, whereas in London you got traffic lights that tell you what to do, you know, so it's a different way of driving.
Well, there we have it. It seems that not only can you drive your Morris Minor as your everyday car, but you can even drive it in England's capital city. Thank you so much for sharing your lovely traveller with us, and I hope the weather stays lovely for you.
I hope it stays like this all day.
Now inside here is the absolute cherry on the cake. This is the display that the Dorset branch put together. And you'll notice, by the way, as we look round, you'll see some backboards. And these are all painted by Roger, who's part of the Dorset branch. And he works on them from 1 year to the next. He puts so much effort in, it's unbelievable. But for me to say it's just Roger would be to do a disservice to the rest of the branch, because they all work so hard on putting this together. They find original outfits, they find original props, they do loads of research around the era that they're talking about. I love it. Now you might say to me, Steph, they're not Morris Minors, but look, they are, okay? So before you had the Morris Minor as you might know it, the Morris Minor that you see out in the field today, there's an earlier car also called a Morris Minor, and they were essentially talking in this display this year, so they theme it each year, about the life cycle of the Morris Minor name, and they take it up to the mid-50s, I think, when they swap over to the A-series engine. So the idea of the display this year was the maturing of the Morris Minor before they started using the A-series. And I like this because this is the area that I am weakest on knowledge-wise. So I really enjoyed looking around this and seeing all the display and learning a little bit about the car. And I don't know if you saw the Barnfind car earlier on, which we just panned past, but that was pulled out of a barn specially for this event. And then you've got this as well, and oh my goodness, all the cars are the very best examples that they could find. I mean, this car had a mirror underneath. Let me tell you now, there is no way that you would see me put a mirror underneath my car, my goodness. But again, I love the timeline, and as well as that, you've also got the parts department, because the Dorset branch have a parts department. Could you ask for anything better? Absolutely not. Should you be here next year? 100%. I'll see you here. Well, that's it for Moggifest 2025. What an amazing event this has been. Every year, the Dorset branch absolutely just go to new levels of excellence with everything that they do, and all the props that you've seen and all the backboards. They've spent all year preparing that so that we could have a fantastic weekend at Moggifest. So look, if you've never been before, please come next year, because it is such a great event. There are so many wonderful cars here, so many friendly people, and I think coming to events like this changes what Morris Minor ownership is all about. Now you're going to see that I've ended the video with something in my hand that I didn't start with, and it is, oh, I've got it the wrong way around. It is the Moggifest 2025 Best Dressed First Place. Now I was really pleased to win this, because this is the first time I've ever worn this dress. It's an original mid-century 60s Hawaiian dress, and I've worn it with my vintage sunglasses from Dead Men's Specs, and essentially I felt absolutely amazing all day. It's one of my new favourite outfits, and I'm absolutely loving every minute of the day in it, and it's been perfect for this weather as well. It's made of bark cloth, and I could wax lyrical all day about it, but I'm going to end the video here. It's been a pleasure coming to Moggifest 2025. It's been such good fun, and I hope to see you here next year. But until next weekend, when we meet again doing something else, take care and drive safely.